So guys, today's video we look at a tank that no one's necessarily playing at the moment, and I think that this one is really underrated within World of Tanks console, and of course the game's meta at the moment, of course being focused on DPM, getting out as much damage as possible really early on within the game and just maintaining your hit points for the latter half of the game, which is of course where this tank really does kind of succeed, and making sure that you use the DPM effectively, because this thing gets crazy DPM. It's a tier 7, the SU-122 44, of course having a 122mm with 390 alpha damage and reloading within about 5 seconds, so ridiculous. You've literally got like 4,000 DPM in this thing. It's crazy. Realistically, for a tier 7, it's one of the highest DPM tier 7s in the game, if not the actual highest DPM tier 7 within the game, and you'll see just how much damage you can rack up so quickly within this tank as long as you get it in the right position, and that's kind of the key weakness of the SU-122 44, but with experience and with knowing the maps and with knowing the key areas of the maps where people cross, you can take advantage of that and make sure that you have games where you do 3k plus, 2.5k plus, you know, making sure that you have games like that. Unfortunately we miss on the Stug 3G, otherwise we would have probably one-shot him there out of the game, and that's kind of crazy to think about, that a tier 7 can actually, TD that has a reload of like 5 seconds, can actually one-shot a tier 5 within the game. And of course right now you will see just how much hit points we took away from that VK2801, dealing 400 to him. We then reload in 5.3 seconds or whatever it is for the full reload. 5.8 seconds, sorry. Yeah, crazy reload on this tank, and it's just mad how much damage you can rack up within such a short period of time. And kind of wargaming, I guess, I didn't realise how much the DPM buffs from update 6.0 has really led to tanks like this just becoming super OP, kind of not necessarily overpowered, but so much better. And I guess that's kind of a benefit from update 6.0. Whether or not, you know, Wargaming intended to do that, that's kind of what actually happened. A lot of these tanks got better, and although they were decent to begin with because of the accuracy buffs, now the effective DPM, you know, where you can reliably deal damage, because there's always this balance in the game between, yes, you can have really super high DPM, but if you can't actually dish it out in chunks or be able to use it effectively, then it's no point. You know, if you're missing all of your shots, yes, you might have the highest DPM in the game, but if you're not actually dealing the damage, then what's the point in having it? Now, of course, with this one, that's kind of not the case. Yes, you do have to kind of fully aim a lot of your shots, because you do miss quite a few if you don't actually fully aim, and I guess that's kind of an area where you kind of need to be aware of. And yes, it doesn't get the best gun depression, as you can see here. We did bounce that one right there, and of course we didn't aim there, and this is what I mean. Make sure you're fully aiming in this tank. Make sure you put yourself in a position well in time whereby you can deal with the damage quickly. And you'll see right now we're getting shot in the back by the Absolution, who's now decided he's going to try and YOLO us from nearly full health, and this is what this tank does best. Tracks him in the first shot, he tries moving away, and we can put one more into him before he gets into cover. He got a little bit lucky because we low rolled both of our shots there, meaning he's still left alive, and the Panzer V M10 is now deciding that he's apparently going to come. Got a bit of lag here, which is a bit annoying, but we put one into the front of the Panzer V M10. Now what we can do is, because this tank's mantlet is kind of the auto aim position, or a position whereby if you actually just shoot, that kind of is the area that gets hit. And of course we bounce a few rounds here, which is something I guess is really good about the tank, I guess. So make sure if you are going to come up, you want to be as quickly or as close to as possible as the Absolution decides to come and YOLO us whilst the lag's going on. Pretty much everything that could go wrong yet again is happening in this video. Of course, 2 tanks at once. We then are going to go up here and try and get some more damage out within this game. Of course, picking up 2,300 damage within this game already, which is actually really good, considering how early on in the battle it is. You know, it's only lasted like 4 minutes or something crazy like that, 5 minutes coming up. Yeah, this tank, that's kind of what it does best. You know, put yourself in a position where you can deal out the damage very quickly, where you can track opponents, put them into a position where they're just going to you know, not have too much fun. And you can see right here, we put 1 into him. We're now going to face hug him right here, hope that he bounces off us, and we put 1 into him. There you go. You know, taking away that 700 hit points that he had very, very easily. And yeah, we're up to now like 3,000 damage so quickly within this tank that, yeah, you kind of get lost in the damage, I guess, in a tank like this. And that's exactly the sort of tank that you want in World of Tanks console right now, is just one where you can just have an absolute field day, put out and dish out all of the damage very, very quickly, and move along. Use your camo, which this tank actually gets super good camo if you put a camo net on and you put advanced optics. It's kind of up to you whether you go for ventilation over advanced optics, but for me personally, I went with the camo net and ventilation and a gun rammer, of course, to get that DPM even higher, and so you can permanently track people out in the open and make sure you do as much damage as possible. Of course, this replay is pretty much over. We will get the last kind of bit of damage hopefully within this game on that IS that's kind of moving up, but yeah, in terms of how well we've done, we've bounced 860 damage, which this tank, yes, it doesn't have necessarily the most amount of armor, but it has enough to the point where you will be able to actually bounce a few, and if you put it in the right position. Of course, when you're coming up against tier 9s, like every tank in the game, if you're in 2 tiers below, you tend not to be able to bounce too many, and that's kind of the problem with this kind of tank, is when you are in those +2 and -2 matchmaking, then yeah, it can't be as fun. But in fact, I actually think that this may be preferential matchmaking, whereby it can only go up to tier 8. Not entirely sure, but that could be the possibility, and so this tank has an even better potential within the game to have those fantastic games. And of course, within this one we picked up 4 enemies destroyed, 3,252 damage, 860 blocked. We're going for our kind of marks in this tank very, very slowly every now and again. A steel wall medal, high caliber, duelist, all of the various medals, and of course coming top of the team with a decent result there. Not the best game you could ever have, and certainly you couldn't expect to have some 5k damage games within this one, but what we will do is get on to the next video and we'll kind of go through some more gameplay in the SU-122 and discuss why it's so broken. And our second gameplay is here on Fisherman's Bay. This is a tier 8 matchup again, like the previous one, although actually the previous one wasn't a tier 8, sorry. Yeah, this game, fantastic one. We're playing on Fisherman's Bay, and of course in a tank destroyer you typically want to be taking the left hand side of the map in terms of the mini-map, of course, being that one line, you know, going right the way down the alphabet line, K1 to A1. Basically that's the sort of area you want to be taking your TD at the beginning of the game, and then you might want to reposition depending on how the match is going. Of course, if the enemy team are YOLOing that kind of side, then, you know, maintaining a defensive position on the side is really, really key, and you can rack up some huge amount of damage within this side on Fisherman's Bay. But of course, we'll have to see how this game plays out and how we actually dealt some damage out within this game. Now, to begin with, pretty terrible kind of event at the beginning of this game that you'll see in a second, being that we are lagging out. So yes, we are going to take a few hits here because the game is just deciding that we're going to lag right out, and yeah, not so fun. We're going to lose a little chunk of hit points and hopefully no more now. So 467 hit points, so we've lost 400, and I guess that this gameplay is going to show you what you should be doing if you lose your hit points early on, you know, through no fault of your own, or if you've made a little bit of a silly mistake at the beginning. How should you play? Now, do you want to be going in and being, you know, super aggressive when you've lost half your hit points already and you've done no damage? Of course not. If you want to be beneficial to your team, you want to make sure that you are staying alive and keeping your gun firing throughout the entire match. Now, of course, in some games that's not possible. If, you know, you get shut down, or you RNG in terms of the artillery just decides that they're going to get a shot on you, then of course you're not going to have much of a choice. But when it comes to this tank, of course you can use your camo, you can put yourself in the right position, and of course we can take out a little bit of hit points off of that knight there. You'll see what I'm doing is wiggling and angling my gun up in the air just to try and bounce a shot if any of them come in. Makes it slightly harder for people to actually hit the right point on your tank so that they might actually bounce. And of course it doesn't work every time. It is kind of one of those things where one in maybe 20 or 1 in 10 times it might actually bounce a shot where it would have penned. But of course it's better to increase your chances, and it doesn't actually cost you anything for doing that, so of course you want the extra chance of bouncing a shot. Now, in terms of this game, what we're doing, well, we've realised we've lost the town, or not lost it, but we're getting pushed aggressively in the town on the right hand side of the map. So using our DPM, we're going to try and get into a position where we can output some damage early on within the game to make sure that, you know, we're not going to lose the game so quickly on that side and then be left out high and dry, I guess. So yeah, we tried to shoot at the IS. Unfortunately, the Lycan went straight in front of our shot. Not that it would have mattered, because I think we had a little bit of delay on the actual firing action, so yeah, we probably would have missed anyway. But now, key kind of thing, of course, what is this tank? Well, of course it's a TD, so you want to play it like a TD. Make sure that you are using bushes as and when you can, and make sure that you're not putting yourselves into a position where you're going to get out-traversed, because you are a non-turreted TD, so of course you don't want to put yourselves in a position whereby, you know, someone can out-traverse you easily. Now, we aim for the lower plate of the Tiger 2 there. Unfortunately, we don't actually manage to get it, and so we load an APCR round because I really don't want to bounce anymore. We put one into the side of him. Our Tiger 2's having a little bit of a bad day, and we put one more into him, thinking that I'm going to actually damage him from full health there, or not full health, but I wouldn't have actually bounced. But now we bounce, and then we bounce off of him. Absolutely nightmare. And now we're going to fully aim, because we know the reload of this tank is way better than the Tiger 2, and we shut him down. Now, of course, you see me looking in the sky there, because there are 2 artillery on the enemy team, and of course they miss us for 200 hit points, which is a nightmare. But of course, you know, that happens to everyone. Everyone gets missed by artillery for, you know, a quarter of their health all of the time, so we're not going to complain too much. Hopefully Wargaming will take note of that and actually do something about it, because artillery definitely need a change. Do I think we want the PC changes? Of course not. I don't think that they're any better. Having the stun mechanic and also being hit every single time when someone aims at you is not fun either. But yeah, I think something needs to happen. Whether or not it actually happens, I don't know. But of course, I'd rather have the you know, ability to avoid artillery at all costs, kind of. Maybe just implement, you know, the ability to toggle games with artillery off, because that way, you know, you're kind of saying, well, we've not actually removed artillery, so the people who have ground them out won't actually be able to play them, but at least, you know, it gives the option for the players who actually don't want to play against artillery to have games where they don't have to play against something like that. And of course, you see me looking in the sky again as artillery comes in, and you've got to be wary of that in a tank like this, because the armour is kind of very well angled for you to actually get hit by artillery. So of course, yeah, think about that when you're playing in a tank like the Su-122-44. Hopefully this video is kind of showcasing how much damage you can pick up so quickly in a tank like this. And of course, if you load HE in this thing, which this tank obviously gets because it is like every other tank within the game, then you can deal some significant amount more damage, because you get, I think, 480 damage with the HE rounds, which mean that if you're coming up against some of the lighter armoured tanks in the game, like the artilleries, or if you're coming up against things like the Scorpion G or the Rheinmetall Borsig, or you've got various different paper tanks, then of course this tank basically can take those out very, very easily. T-34 Black is now moving up, and so we kind of don't know what is in our way there, but we didn't manage to get a shot on him, and unfortunately we aren't going to be able to take him out on our own. So yeah, I think he does get taken out in just a second, but what we do have to focus on now is making sure that we don't get hit by whatever that TD is that is blind or not actually detected at the minute, because that's kind of a bit of a disturbing fact when you've got an Iron Rain, I think it is, out in there somewhere, and you have no idea where they are. Now, of course, the E25 gets shut down in just a second, I believe, by that light tank over there. And so now it's a 3 versus 2, an artillery and an Iron Rain. We did notice that the Iron Rain was over to the left, and so we're going to make sure to put some bushes in between us. We're going to pop our combat rations to boost up the view range, to make sure that we have the best ability to actually spot them before they spot us. Unlikely, because it's an Iron Rain, it's probably sat in a bush somewhere And of course when you're moving in a tank destroyer you tend to get bad camo bonuses, because when you're stationary your camo is always better. Now what we have done is, because we knew both of the tanks left alive are paper, we can load HE rounds and we can deal constant damage for 390 plus pretty much, because even if we low roll maximum then we will still be doing our average damage at least. So of course it's actually better to load HE when you know that you can pen your rounds, and if you just aim a little bit more you'll be increasing the DPM significantly. And so a tank like this, if you load HE, can have DPM of like 4,800 damage per minute, which is disgusting when you take into account it has a 5.8 second reload, you've got combat rations, etc., gun lane drive, gun rammer, blah blah blah, and you can actually have a DPM way over 4,800 in a tank like this. And so if you want to make sure that you're dealing lots of damage, then of course prioritising the right kind of ammunition for the right tank is something that will make that DPM or effective DPM go up even more. So yeah, HE round for the Bought Iron Rain, which you'll see in just a second. We're going to wait for him. Wait, because he's moving up, and there you go, 426 damage in one shot. And of course we'll reload within 5.8 seconds if we don't have the combat rations on, and if we have the combat rations on, the reload goes down to 5.5 seconds. Crazy. Absolutely crazy tank. 3,124 damage. 2 games that were pretty decent. You know, this earns money as well. You saw both games earning like 100,000 plus, or nigh on 100,000 silver per game. Really, really good tank. One that I kind of think goes unmissed. I think a lot of people don't actually see this tank enough, and I really hope that you did enjoy this video showcasing one of the more forgotten premium tanks at tier 7, one that can make fantastic amount of silver, and one that certainly got a massive buff when it comes to update 6.0. So I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Of course, we had the update news for the new season in yesterday's video, so if you want to have a look at all of the information regarding the next season, which is on the 29th of June on Tuesday, that is the next season, then you can do that in that video. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.